Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The air over the South China Sea was thick with tension that October morning. Chinese H-6K bombers, nuclear-capable and imposing, cut through the clouds above Scarborough Shoal. This was no routine patrol. This was a message. Scarborough Shoal, a ring of reefs claimed by both China and the Philippines, had become the epicenter of a high-stakes power play. Beijing's intent was clear. The shoal was under its watchful eye, and it was willing to back its claim with force. Years of escalating Chinese assertiveness had led to this moment. The Philippines saw the bombers as a direct threat, a new level of intimidation beyond Coast Guard standoffs. The world took notice. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade, and its stability is crucial for the world economy. China's move was more than a territorial flex. It was a challenge to the international order long maintained by American naval power. The bombers' flight signaled a new era. China was now a global power, ready to reshape its environment. For decades, the Pacific was largely an American domain. That era is over. The question now, how far would the Philippines and its allies go to defend these contested rocks? The US and regional powers watched, knowing the stakes extended far beyond the shoal itself. The incident underscored the shifting balance of power in Asia. China's projection of military might was meant to intimidate and force acceptance of a new status quo. The fire had been lit at Scarborough Shoal, and the region braced for the consequences. The smallest features can trigger the greatest storms in geopolitics. The world was left to wonder, could the flames be contained, or would they spread? Scarborough Shoal was no longer just a disputed reef. It was a flashpoint. The Indo-Pacific's future now hung in the balance. The shadow of bombers over the shoal marked the start of a dangerous new chapter. Scarborough Shoal is more than barren rocks, it's a strategic prize. For centuries it sheltered fishermen from storms and anchored local livelihoods. Its location, just 120 nautical miles from Luzon, places it near key Philippine and US accessible military bases. For China, Scarborough is the missing piece in a strategic triangle with the Paracel and Spratly Islands. A militarized shoal would give Beijing control over the South China Sea, allowing it to monitor and project power across vital shipping lanes. Chinese bases here would put Manila and US forces within easy striking distance. The 2012 standoff, which gave China de facto control, marked a turning point. China's salami-slicing strategy, incremental unopposed moves, has steadily changed the facts on the water. Fishermen were pushed out, Coast Guard ships moved in, and now bombers fly overhead. Each step is small, but together they transform the region's strategic landscape. Scarborough's history is being rewritten by China's patient, relentless advance. Geography is destiny, and Scarborough is now a dagger at the heart of the Philippines. The shoal's fate will shape the balance of power in the South China Sea. At the heart of China's claim is the infamous 9-dash line, a sweeping U-shaped boundary on its maps. This line claims nearly 90% of the South China Sea, overlapping the exclusive economic zones of Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and the Philippines. China insists this line marks its historic rights, but the claim is vague and unrecognized by international law. The 9-dash line originated in a 1947 map, later adopted by the People's Republic. In 2016, an international tribunal at The Hague ruled the line had no legal basis and affirmed the Philippines' rights to Scarborough Shoal. China dismissed the ruling, prioritizing power over principle. The 9-dash line is more than a border. It's a symbol of national identity and Xi Jinping's vision of a rejuvenated China. By enforcing it with military might, China is redrawing the map to fit its ambitions. The world faces a stark choice: accept China's narrative or defend the rule of law. The line on the map has become a line in the sand. Scarborough Shoal is now the front line of this cartographic conquest. For the Philippines, Scarborough Shoal is a test of sovereignty and survival. Filipino fishermen, once reliant on these waters, are now harassed and driven away by Chinese Coast Guard ships. Coastal communities face deepening poverty as their livelihoods vanish. Manila's response: assertive transparency, embedding journalists on patrols to expose China's actions and rally global support. The Philippines is modernizing its modest military, but the gap with China is vast. Unable to match China militarily, Manila leans on alliances, especially its mutual defense treaty with the United States. The treaty promises U.S. support if Philippine forces are attacked. but ambiguity remains over what would trigger intervention. Manila seeks stronger security guarantees, turning to Japan, Australia, and Europe for support. The nation walks a tightrope to defend its rights without provoking open conflict. Every incident at the shoal is a blow to national pride, and a reminder of the stakes. Scarborough is not just a reef, it's a symbol of the Philippines' struggle for dignity and security. The world is watching how this David faces its Goliath. The Scarborough crisis is a test of America's credibility as a security guarantor. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty is the cornerstone of regional security. Washington has clarified an attack on Philippine forces in the South China Sea will trigger U.S. commitments. To back this up, the U.S. has increased freedom of navigation patrols and military presence in the region. Yet, the U.S. faces a dilemma: deter China without provoking a catastrophic conflict. The Pentagon shows force. Diplomats keep lines open to avoid miscalculation. The U.S. is also strengthening alliances, revitalizing the Quad and forging new pacts like AUKUS. Expanded access to Philippine bases gives the U.S. strategic reach across the South China Sea and beyond. Allies like Japan and Australia are drawn closer, forming a collective counterweight to China. The region's security architecture is being rebuilt in real time. Scarborough Shoal is now a litmus test for America's resolve and the future of its alliances. The Scarborough standoff is an economic powder keg. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. 1/3 of shipping, worth over $3 trillion, passes through these waters. Any disruption, blockade, skirmish, or even rising insurance costs could rattle global supply chains and spike prices worldwide. The sea is rich in oil, gas, and fish, resources crucial for regional economies. China's claims lock out neighbors from these resources, stifling development. Overfishing by China's vast fleet threatens food security for millions. Militarization and instability deter investment and force companies to rethink supply routes. For the Philippines, China is both a top trading partner and a source of economic leverage, carrots and sticks that shape Manila's choices. A military clash would devastate the global economy, halting trade and sending markets into chaos. The interconnected world means no country is immune to the fallout. Economic self-interest may be the strongest brake on open conflict. The stakes are not just territorial, they're global and immediate. Scarborough Shoal is now a stage for military brinkmanship. China and the US-led alliance conduct war games, signaling readiness and resolve. China practices island seizures and anti-access strategies. The US and Philippines run large-scale exercises simulating defense and counterattack. Allies like Australia and Japan join in, showing international unity. These drills are messages: we are prepared and we will not be intimidated. But with so much firepower in close quarters, the risk of miscalculation is high. Red lines are drawn. China building on the shoal or an attack on Philippine vessels could trigger military responses. The danger: these lines are often blurred and accidents can escalate fast. A collision or skirmish could spiral out of control, fueled by nationalism and pressure to respond. De-escalation becomes difficult once blood is shed. The path from minor incident to major conflict is frighteningly short. Scarborough is now a potential flashpoint for a much larger war. The 2016 Hague ruling should have settled the Scarborough dispute. It invalidated China's 9-dash line and affirmed Philippine rights. For a moment, international law seemed to offer hope, but China's rejection of the ruling undermined the authority of global norms. The tribunal has no power to enforce its decision. Compliance depends on good faith and diplomatic pressure. The Philippines won the legal battle, but struggles to enforce it on the water. Still, the ruling is a powerful tool for Manila and its allies, framing the dispute as a fight for the rule of law. In global forums, the Philippines can isolate China as a violator of international norms. The beacon of law may have dimmed, but it remains a rallying point for legitimacy and support. Scarborough Shoal is now a test of whether law or power will shape the future. As tensions rise, the only path forward is determined diplomacy. This isn't appeasement, it's about managing conflict and seeking peaceful resolution. Crisis hotlines and regular dialogue between Beijing, Washington, and Manila are essential to prevent accidents. A binding code of conduct for the South China Sea must be finalized to reduce risks. The Philippines and its allies must build a broad coalition to pressure China and uphold international law. Economic incentives, like joint resource development, can spur could encourage cooperation over confrontation. The solution won't come from missiles, but from patient, persistent diplomacy. The future of the Indo-Pacific depends on leaders stepping back from the brink. The fire at Scarborough can still be doused, if diplomacy prevails.